The East Riding village of Flamborough sits on a chalky headland cut off on three sides by the North Sea and cut off from the mainland by the ancient entrenchment of Danes Dyke. The area is known today for its birdwatching, beautiful coastal paths and chalky cliffs, atop which stand two historic lighthouses, only one of which was ever functional, and set back from this is the old village, once of farmers and fishermen, whose existence is now in decline, though the resonances of their old way of life linger in the surviving vernacular architecture. The local houses and farms were often constructed in chalk, a harder, grittier chalk than we might think, and better for long-lasting construction. Not only are Georgian and Victorian dwellings in Flamborough constructed of this abundant stone, but evidence can also be seen in the ruins of the medieval castle. Few people know that Flamborough once had a large medieval port, with a harbour capable of affording shelter for vessels of 40 tons. Flamborough is first mentioned as a port in written orders dating back over 700 years to the 14th century. However, the earliest mention of a quay or pier appears to be in 1400 or 1401, when Robert Constable, Lord of Flamborough, bequeathed £40 for the maintenance of one quay in the sea. Thereafter, several documents refer to matters such as the tonnage of vessels from the port and acts of piracy, such as a major wrecking incident in 1348, where one Thomas Drypool, a royal mariner, reported that the storm-damaged king's ship La Catherine was driven ashore at Flamborough, where locals jumped on the wreckage, broke it up, and looted it of its chests of money and other valuable goods. By 1551, the pier had been destroyed by the sea. It was probably rebuilt around 1562, but destroyed again by the sea in 1569, after which there are no further reliable references to such a harbour. It was likely rebuilt, but not on the same scale or in the same location. In fact, the precise location of the original harbour is not recorded, but the only plausible locations on the headland are the north or south landings. The North Landing has been dismissed as it is exposed to the prevailing wind of the North Sea, whereas local folklore places it at South Landing, which benefits from being naturally sheltered from the harsh weather conditions. It was reported in an early volume of the Yorkshire Archaeological Journal that in 1911 an elderly inhabitant of Flamborough recalled in his younger days seeing at South Landing the scanty remains of an old pier at an exceptionally low tide, which is believed to be the remains of the medieval harbour. In the village centre is St Oswald's Parish Church, and I am here for the first time to see the magnificent 16th century rood screen and loft. But before that, a look around the building. St Oswald's is externally a rebuild of the second half of the 19th century, with all the remaining medieval building fabric to be seen inside. The south nave arcade is decorated Gothic, and the north nave arcade and that in the chancel are perpendicular, the last phase of English Gothic architecture. The chancel arch is 12th century, and although partially obscured by the later screen and rood loft, you can still see its crudely carved scalloped capitals. The drum-shaped baptismal font also dates from the 12th century, splashed with irregular-shaped lozenges in the same vein as contemporary fonts at the nearby churches at Carnaby and Nafferton. There is a monument to Marmaduke Constable, one of the lords of the manor, who died in 1520, with a brass inscription in black letter featuring 26 lines of English verse, transcribed and available to read in the church. On this tomb are the fragmentary remains of what was once probably a cadaver effigy, at one time said to have a stone frog carved within it. The most remarkable feature in this church is without doubt the very fine 16th century rood screen and loft, or gallery, the latter of which may have been relocated here from Bridlington Priory, further south along the coast. Pevsner's Guide for the county describes the loft as the most complete of its kind in the East Riding, despite its restoration in 1908 and 1909, at which time a considerable amount of new work was executed. To the great loft, an additional niche was added both at the north and south ends, so that the front now reaches from wall to wall, as it is believed to have originally been constructed, the larger niche now being immediately over the centre of the opening in the screen below. However, old records show that the screen and loft have not always shared occupancy in their current position against the chancel arch. In 1866, the loft front was erected on corbels against the west wall of the nave, above the tower arch, where it remained until it was, happily, replaced over the screen in 1895. The pair are a truly magnificent coupling, sympathetically restored nearly 120 years ago, and an irrefutable ecclesiological treasure of the highest standard in a church in the East Riding of Yorkshire. Before you go, give the screen and loft a closer inspection for remains of gilding and colour in the decorative details of leaf band and foliate cornice. And on your way out, take one last good look at that wonderful old baptismal font.